if I were to teach something like, for example, a martial art that I think is relatively silly in terms of functionality would be Aikido. I could pick any number. I could pick version of Chinese Kung Fu, but I just prefer to be honest about this stuff. Um, if you're teaching that and you say to the students in the room that this is a kind of a cultural artifact, that we're training it specifically as an art, we're learning to move, um, there's a cultural heritage to it, all that's fine. But the moment you tell people that this is something you're going to use for self-defense, then it better be something that can actually work for self-defense, especially if you're going to give people the idea that they're going to be able to use it in a confrontation that could otherwise involve them getting badly hurt. And a lot of what is taught there is rather silly. And so what will happen in those kind of circumstances, if they see somebody like me, or they see a Brazilian Jiu-jitsu instructor or a boxer come in, or something, whatever it is, combat athlete come in, they will tone down the rhetoric about what works and what doesn't work. And to me, they will say, well, we just mostly do this as a means of, not it's true, but it's useful. Right? So there's levels of how people will argue for pseudoscience. The first one is it's true. But once you get past that, they immediately go to, well, it's not true, but it's useful. And often like to play a kind of Mott and Bailey strategy where they switch back and forth between the two. When they talk to someone like me, they'll say, well, it's not true, it's useful. But the problem with that is the moment I turn around, then they talk to their audience or their students, then they go back to, well, that's actually true. An analogy from religion would be, if I'm talking to a fundamentalist Christian and in conversation with me or debate, they say, well, it's really a metaphor. And Exodus and or when we talk about Genesis in the book of Noah and the Watchers and the worldwide flood, that's a metaphor for, and then insert whatever Jungian stuff you want. But then when I go and poll his congregation, you find that 85 to 90% of the people in that congregation treat Genesis as a news report and actually believe it to be real. It's because when I'm not there, when they're talking, they teach it as if it's a news report, not a metaphor. And so there is a hypocrisy that's there that I find is often there with make-believe, what I would just refer simply to as make-believe topics, because it has to be. Because if you truly open yourself up to evidence, you're going to find out pretty quickly the world wasn't covered by water 6,000 years ago. It just wasn't. And then you have to confront that reality, and that can lead to uncomfortable, difficult questions. So anyway, the connection between functional martial arts and the scientific process exists in that level of competition, that openness to evidence and the epistemology. Likewise, the connection between make-believe martial arts, whatever they are, and superstition is a direct correlation with what you find in religion. And the evidence that they will put forward is the same. It's anecdotal, or it's an argument from authority.